Hi everybody, I'm Glenn, and Xander's not joining me for this, but together we are Funking 3D. This is now step 7 in our Prusa i3 Mk2s assembly. We hope that you've been following along with us so far and have made the progress that we've made or better. I hope that you've made better progress. So with step 7, you're going to need your printed parts bag. You're going to need your number 7 hardware bag. You will need the number 7 heat bed. And you will need your power supply. Now, it should be noted, and later they're going to show you in the assembly instructions, but we actually checked this during the unboxing. There is a switch on the side of your power supply to set your mains, depending on whether you're a 110 or a 220 mains voltage area. Here in the US, we are a 110, so we did check that. It actually did come from Prusa. Ours came from Prusa, set at 110. But your mileage may vary on that. Tools for this, they claim that you need a 2 and a 2.5 millimeter Allen key and the needle nose pliers. Let's punch you over here. Difficulty on this is moderate. It's 20 steps. It's 30 minutes to an hour, one section. I don't know what the best angle for this is going to be. We'll play along as we go. And rolling in, step 1 is just getting the necessary tools together, which I already have. Step 2 is your 3D printed parts, which we'll go ahead and take those out of the bag. This will be the spool holder. Which, I'm not real excited about that spool holder, as you can see over my shoulder here. I built that one out of PVC pipe, just to hold a couple of spools over the A-net, and it seems to be working pretty good. It's a little cumbersome to load and unload, but I'm just not a fan of hanging the spool off the top of the printer. I think that it gives it the desire to wobble. Oh, I'm sorry if I didn't show you this. I was talking about spool holders. This is actually the cover for the cover and the string release for the heat bed. So we have a bag of hardware there. I have no hardware guy, but I'll be picking my own hardware today. There's still a zip tie in that bag. So I'm going to set that bag over here. If you haven't been following us or you're not aware, the bags that the hardware come in have a one-to-one print on them, so that you can actually lay out the hardware onto that bag, compare it to the drawing, and then you know you get the right one. Or you can use a caliper to check it either way. And 3 zip ties. All right, so assembling the PSU, which is the power supply unit, we're going to need 2 M4x10s. Should be these guys right here. That's smaller and that's smaller. Yeah, all the rest of these are M3x8s. So there are only 2 M3x10s in that bag. So you'll need both of those. And your power supply. Let's go to the overhead. Go to the sky cam. So I'm going to spin this. I'm going to be working mainly here in this corner. move all my parts over. We will slide Groot over. All right, so your power supply with the wires coming out like this. It's going to go here to the back. I don't know if it tells us where to tuck these wires yet, but I have a feeling they are going to go underneath, so I'm just going to go under this bracket with them. There's plenty of space. Bad camera angle. There's plenty of space in between there, so we'll be able to get it. We're going to roll this around, and we're going to actually go into get a better angle on this. We're going to go into the two holes, one here, with these pieces of hardware. These guys have a little bit of powder coating in the holes, so the screws aren't just dropping through there. This dark black powder coat, I gotta put on my glasses to see. We're just kind of threading through, so I'm going to run those screws all the way in, and then I'm going to break that powder coat bond on there. I mean, it doesn't grab real hard. I don't want to end up with a gapping between the power supply and the upright. And then you got to find the hole to put it in. So let's punch back over here up above. So I'm just trying to watch that bracket down below too. And she's grabbing. And we'll wiggle that around a little bit till we get that bottom one to drop in. Nope, I thought she had grabbed. I'm trying to be aware of these holes, which you guys can't see in that camera. These holes here, as far as angle on the power supply, which should then put the other two in the right range. I'm gonna have to turn this. This is giving me a really hard time. There is no wiggle room for that. I mean, it has to be directly in line with that. Alright, so those two are tight. Yeah, a little bit of flexing to get it to line up with that bracket down below, but that's okay. So step 4 is just talking about securing those two. It says don't secure them completely. We'll get to that later. At this point, you now need these two M318s, 2 washers, and 2 nuts. And I'm pretty sure they have flipped the printer. Even though there's not really an easy way to flip that printer. Okay. Not real happy setting it on the motors, but all right. So I've rotated the printer, as you can see up there. There's 2 in this bracket right here. So I'll pull you over to. In this bracket. In this bracket, there are 2 nut traps. So I'm going to thread the nut onto the end of that and use that screw to jam that nut up in there. I will do that 2 times. This is the same technique that they showed us back building the extruder assembly 2 steps ago. That one doesn't stay. Used a lot of force on that. And then you're gonna put the washers. I have a hard time picking these little washers up. So I always lick the tip of my finger and then stick it. I know that gets spit on my printer, but just a little bit of love. Yeah, see, that nut's not far enough up in there. Extreme close-up. So I'm going to use, I think, a 5mm, if that's gonna fit. 5mm Allen key. Just kind of push it in there. At the same time, I'll try turning this. All right, so this is a situation where the T-handled Allen keys don't work well. There's not really a lot of room to swing that, but the Allen key that came in the kit, I feel weird I'm talking to the wrong camera. It has a ball end on it. I don't know if you can see that. It's got a ball end so that you can go at a little bit of an angle with it. It's I can feel it wanting to cross thread a bit. So make sure that you don't do that. Don't cross thread it. All right, now it's grabbing. Now it's pulling. Now it's pulling that nut up in there. I'm not going to go too tight until I get the other one. Same deal. Lick my finger. Pick up the washer. Put it on the screw. Maybe it goes back to growing up with two older sisters. You know, you gotta lick your food so they don't take it. Chances are my sisters will never watch this video far enough to hear me say that. This one's a little tricky. I didn't want to drop into the hole, but it's in there now. Let's see if we can grab that nut. Nope, it's pushed out too far. So same thing, 5mm hex key, and I'm just going to kind of push that nut up into the hole. giving a lot of force. It's not setting that nut. Get a little bit bigger. Maybe I go to a 6mm. It pushes the whole nut evenly. I may have to find a longer screw to grab that and pull it in. Had I seen, and if you haven't done it yet, before I put that power supply on, I would have put those nuts in and pulled them up tight with the screws, and then taken the screws back out to put everything together. Because it's not grabbing. So what I am going to do is, I'm going to use a tool improperly. I'm going to mute you for a second because I'm going to put this 6mm up in here, and I'm going to wrap the end of it. I'm going to wrap the end of it with this screwdriver, but it's going to be noisy, so I'm going to mute you. All right, let's see if that pushed it up in far enough to get it. Yeah, I can see the screws pushed out, so maybe. No, still did not. One more time. That time it knocked the screw out all the way to the floor. Just a second here, we'll get her. And the noise of the banging of that thing, I didn't hear anything fall out until I heard the washer hit the table. Now I feel it touching. It's touching the 5 and 6 away. Hopefully. No, that is still not grabbing. All right, so as much as I hate to say it, I got to take this other one back out. Go ahead and take that screw that's not working out of there. I'm going to take these two back out. Every once in a while, you got to undo stuff. My father always used to say, sometimes the long way's the short way. In a situation like this, I could sit and play with that thing for 20 minutes trying to grab it. Or I could go dig around and try to find a screw that's the same thread but longer. But instead, I'm just going to pop that PSU off of there. I'm then going to take the screw and I'm going to put it down in the hole. I'll give you this Skycam view. I'm going to get it down into this hole and start threading it into that nut, which seems to be crooked, which might be part of the problem too, because it's not catching. All right, let's get the PSU completely out of the way. Flip that up on its side again. Mute. unmute. I guess from me banging on that, I've kind of set that nut crooked. So I just threaded that into there so that I can use that to straighten it out a little bit. Now I should be able to thread it in from this side. All I'm doing is tightening it down with nothing else hooked to that to set that nut into that nut trap. So now that that part is done, flip it back up for a second. Bring the PSU back in. I've actually popped those ribbon cables out of that clip from flipping it over. But that's okay, we can fix that easy enough. Again, remember these aren't tight. Say that we're going to go back and tighten them later. Now coming down, slide that heat bed plate forward. Now coming down into the got to wiggle that around a little bit to get them to go down in. And then we're using that ball tipped Allen key again. I don't know if it says to tighten these or not. Step 6 says using a 2.5mm Allen key, tie the PSU part to the PSU cover, turn the screws on the frame, and tighten them. Okay, so everything's getting tightened now. So we're snugging down these bottom ones. Again, not too tight because you'll pull the screw right through the plastic. I was just thinking to myself, metal versus plastic, metal will win every time, but that's not really true. However, in this scenario, I'm pretty sure that the metal will overtake the plastic. All right. There is our PSU, and that is the end of step 6. It says if there's a gap, use the screws to contract it. So we don't have any gaps, we're tight. All right, guide the low voltage cables from the PSU under the threaded rods to the other side of the frame as shown in the picture. So it's actually kind of following the upright. I'm going to flip this way so I'm not laying it on that extruder motor. I'm sorry, the X-axis motor. really think I need like a white cover or something for my work table so that there's more contrast so you guys can see what I'm doing. All right, so it's actually okay that my ribbon cables came onto this clip because these are to follow across like this, and they just get zip tied to these threaded rods, which seems a little weird to me as well. I might print something later to do a better job at that. So we're going to just kind of nicely stack these. We're going to run the zip tie. And I'm not going to tighten that up yet. We have to do both. Cables are out of control on this thing. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it until the end, but it's just amazing to me how much wire it takes for a 3D printer. Make sure that you don't have the zip tie backwards like I just did. It won't lock that way. All right, so just they don't have it pushed. They don't have it pushed all the way to the nuts or anything. They just have it coming straight across. I'm just kind of afraid here it's gonna rub on the belt, and then they say don't tighten it too much because you can damage the insulation on the wire, which makes sense. You're pulling it against a threaded rod. So I don't know if you guys can really see that, but it's zip tied here and it's zip tied here. And then I just have it's coming across right there. Oh, this side, right here. And there's a gap between the belts and that, so now I can snip those off. Even though it doesn't say to, I'm going to snip them off anyway. And then I'm going to bring my ribbon cables back over and into my clip where they had gotten pulled out of. I live near an aviation community, and I can hear somebody out there flying stunts. A couple of gentlemen that have biplanes, and they're always flying loops. All right, so that is the end of step 7. Step 8, oh, here we are talking about setting that switch on the power supply for your mains voltage. It is now telling us that we need to take off these two temporary nuts that we had put on when we were building, the ones that we had to take out of bag 9. So we will go ahead and take those out. Just so you guys know, just kind of as a heads up, when you take those 2 nuts out, this piece underneath this belt retainer may drop. It's okay. You're not going to lose tension on your belt. That's all fine. But some of the people have had where those screws thread into that hole pretty good. The powder coating is thick enough on there to take it, but remove only the nuts. The screws must remain in place. You'll need them to connect the heat bed to the holder. Now they want us to prepare the heat bed. We need 4 M3x8s, which are these littlest guys here. We need 4 of those. The heat bed comes with a print surface, yellowish foil already stuck, so do not remove it. Take extra care to prevent any damage to the surface. Yeah, you definitely don't want to go tearing up your PEI sheet, because that'll come much later. Like when you run your nozzle into the heat bed. I'm going to mute this just for a second. That tape was really loud and I didn't want it to screech into the microphone. Or when you print PETG and it's just so stuck and it won't come off and it tears up your heat bed. All right, so here you have some tape to hold the thermistor on. So don't peel that off. Be very careful of your wiring. And this yellowish coating on here, that's your PEI sheet. You can see there's a little bit of a lip. This is what they don't want you to peel off. Though from what I understand, it's actually very difficult to peel off. And therefore, I don't think that you're just going to go and peel it off. The heat bed has threaded inserts already mounted in the bed. So that's what we're going to screw up into using a 2mm Allen key. And they say right here, tighten the screws with care. The threads inside the heat bed can be easily damaged. So definitely do not cross thread it. That would be bad. Try this view. I'm going to slide this to the edge of the table and I will be out of view, but all I'm doing is coming up from underneath the bed and into the heat bed. I'm just using the edge of the table so that I can not have to turn my whole printer upside down again. I think my Allen keys are wearing out already. Been talking so great about these Allen keys that I got from Harbor Freight. I mean, they're T-handled and they're really convenient. But if any of you guys know what a Harbor Freight is, if you're in the U.S., Harbor Freight is not known for selling the greatest quality of tools. So sometimes you wear the stuff out. The good news is anything that's got their Pittsburgh name on it, hand tool wise, is a lifetime guarantee. And again, for those of us in the United States, if you've ever had Craftsman tools from Sears, how amazing their warranty always was, where you just carried it in and they give you another one. Harbor Freight does exactly that. No questions asked. You just go in, I broke this. They go, okay, get another one. There's no paperwork. There's no, you don't go through line. You know, like you can just walk up to the cashier and say, I broke this. I'm gonna get another one. And they go, okay, and then you go get another one. But yeah, the tip of this Allen key is showing wear already. And it's only built 2 3D printers. And it's slipping in there. So see the wear on the tip of that. And of course you could cut the tip off, but I won't. I will actually run down. In fact, today is the 4th of July. So here in the United States, of course, we celebrate that. And I have a 25% off coupon for Harbor Freight. Yeah, that's I don't know if it's my Allen key. You know, now that I've said all of that, I don't know if it's my Allen key or if it's these screws stripping out. But we're going to try the one that came in the kit, which should have pretty much 0 hours on it. It is not the screws. It is definitely my Harbor Freight Allen keys. Something I should mention, and I just did wrong when I did that. I've said it a couple times in a few of the videos. When you're assembling stuff like this, don't tighten anything until everything's in place. So I had 3 of the 4 screws in, and they were tight, and I can't get the 4th one in. And sometimes it's just a matter of moving stuff around until you can get it to catch. Or not. Hope I didn't get a bad bed. There, she caught. Just had to angle it a little differently. And again, don't over tighten it. If it gets snug, then only go a little tiny bit more. No reason to get crazy on it. And ideally, put the long piece into the screw and turn with the little short piece. If you're going to do it the other way, put this into the screw, put your thumb here, and just your finger on the end this way. That way the wrench takes a little bit of the torquing and it doesn't overdo it and it doesn't strip it out. But if you do it the other way where you put the long end in, then you only have this little tiny handle to turn it and you generally won't get that much torque. All right, so now that is the end of step 11. Step 12 is tightening up the holder in the middle of the bed. And I'm going to apologize right now because I don't think that I can get a camera angle in there. I really can't, and still be able to work, but I am in the middle of under the heat bed. Let's just try going up to here. I'm at that Y holder right in the middle of the bed. Now you've got belts and stuff in the way for that. So you're going to have to kind of go at an angle. So you're going to probably want to use the Allen key, the ball end one that came with the kit. It is a 2.5 millimeter. I almost said 2.5 inch. That would be a very large Allen key, and I'm sure they're out there. I'm sure somebody uses it to build, you know, battleships or bridges or something crazy. Again, you don't want to over tighten it, but it's kind of a crucial piece, so you definitely want to have some contact. But with this ball end, because you got to kind of go in at an angle because the belt's in the way, but that ball end wrench will get it. And I don't know if they're going to tell us, but I want to, I'm going to cycle this table now and make sure that, cycle this heat bed a little bit just to make sure that my belts still look good. All these wires out of the way. Yep, belt's still running beautifully. Wow, that thing's getting heavy. That's impressive. All right, that's the end of step 12 then. We're going on to 13, which is the cover, which also works as a little bit of the strain relief for the heat bed. Wires out of the way. Back this up. Bring that camera down so you can see the cover, which is a black printed part, and that goes over it. Now, some people have had problems with these solder joints breaking and stuff, but your mileage may vary. We'll see. You need one M3 screw, and you need one M3 nut, which you should now have 3 of those sitting there total because you took the 2 off, unless you didn't use them. But oh, I'm sorry. It was just saying that these little wires from the thermistor may be white, but it has no bearing. The nut's going to go into the nut trap. And we're going to do the same little trick where we come from the other side with the screw. Thread that down. And then we will use the Allen key to turn that screw, pull that nut into the nut trap. Let's see that it's, get that right angle there. That pulls that down in nicely. Now we can take that screw back out, and that nut's down in there. We didn't have to bang on anything, or, and then we're gonna drop the screw on the table. We're gonna come from underneath. This is when I need Xander's little tiny hands. Instead, I'm gonna use these little tiny needle nose. And drop the screw again. We're going to grab that screw right there near the head, and then we'll bring it up through the hole. That cover on. And I'm going to fish around with the end of the Allen key. Oh, I like the way this fits. It's almost like this cover doesn't lay down without squashing the wires. There's a big chunk. Oh, I see. All right, and we're not supposed to be putting this on yet. I'm glad that I noticed that. We have to put that that piece of nylon filament in there. So it's the shorter one. I don't know. Take the piece of filament that came with the parts, the 30 centimeter one, push all the way down into the filament holder. The one on the extruder said specifically to make it curve up, so I'm going to do the same thing. So when I'm putting it in this way with this side showing, I'm going to make it curve down so that when we turn it over, it's curved up. I think that just helps take some of the pressure off, but it's kind of the same scenario. It's too fat, so I'm going to use my side cutters to just not actually cut through but I'm going to shave the end of this into a little bit of a point. I know it's hard to see that, but and then I guess I gotta grab that with pliers because I can't hold that with my bare hands. Might have to shave that more. All right, so now I've put a really good bevel on that, about 45 degrees. Can't see how far it is into the hole. It doesn't say how far it should be in the hole, but I'm gonna try giving it one more push, and all I'm doing, I'm grabbing here, making sure not to put it in the cutter part and not where the teeth are. There's a flat spot in the pliers, that way it doesn't mess up the nylon. And then I'm putting pressure this way while I'm squeezing this way and close to the thing so we don't bend it. Yeah, I don't know if that went anymore. I think I can now see that down in there. Yeah, it's pushed in a little better than halfway, so. And then it just pulled out really easy, so I'm not real pleased with that. I don't want that to be able to pull out that easy. No, it seems like it's only going in as far as I cut that bevel. So let's try a little something else. These little sanding boards, I guess the ladies call them emery boards. They came in a model rocket kit. I'm just going to kind of, because there's a little bit of a buildup there where the cut stopped. Yeah, they gave you these to sand the whole entire model rocket kit for the Cub Scouts. I brought regular sandpaper for the kids. I couldn't imagine sanding the whole thing. All right, let's see if we can. I have to run a drill bit in there. And you know, maybe I'm overthinking this again. I mean, maybe once everything is zip tied, it's fine, but it just seems like it pulls out awfully easy. So. Alright, 2.5, 3 won't fit in there. 3mm Allen key won't fit in there. 2.5 fits in there, but it's loose. But I just wanted to make sure there wasn't any artifacting or anything that was hanging that up. I don't have any metric drill bits. The only place locally that sells them is Harbor Freight, and Harbor Freight's drill bits are terrible. Ah, now I just broke it. Alright, so definitely don't do that. I broke the top of that off there trying to push that in so hard. But it is now in all the way. So hopefully, hopefully now when we zip tie all that up, it'll be good. Oh, that displeases me. But it is what it is. I will have to print a new one, which I'll have to print a new one anyway. I'm putting cable chains on this thing. So it's a new end that goes on the end. I want to say it was Aaron York that designed the cable chain setup for this that I like. Great design on the cable chains itself. And I don't think that's got to be real tight. Yeah, here it says, make sure the filament is pointing to the right side while the cable holder is orientated upward. So you want it to have the curve like that, so that it's coming up to the side. Tighten the part to the heat bed using a 2mm Allen key. And we are now going to use the last piece of cable wrap, which will be a little bit of a, I would say about a foot long. Use the spiral wrap and wrap nylon with the cables, black from the top and white from the bottom from the heat bed. So I guess we're talking about the thermistor wire. Do not cut the filament. You'll need the full length. And it looks to me in the picture like they've wrapped, they're wrapping the cable. They're wrapping the cable, but the wrap itself is not going up over this housing. It's actually inside, and it does fit in there quite nicely. So wish they would have done something like that for the extruder. I don't like the way that cable wrap is on that extruder. I was toying with the thought of putting a large piece of heat shrink up over this extruder, run a piece of heat shrink up over this, take these 3 zip ties off of here and heat shrink that tubing to that piece of black cable holder. I realize it would be more difficult in the future to get those cables out of there or to do any work on it or whatever, but I think that heat shrink on that would provide great cable strain relief. All right, and coming to the end, got about a 1/2 inch of that nylon sticking out of there. My cable seems to be more pointing down than to the right, but I think it'll be okay, or my nylon. Now knowing that I gotta print a new one of these, I mean, I broke it. It's the first thing I broke on 2 printers. That's all right. So wire from underneath. All right, and then securing the spiral wrap in place, they are using a zip tie, and they're coming from underneath up and over. There's a little bit of a groove in this piece for the cable tie to sit in. And then I'm going to take my pliers and try to get a click or 2. And then I will nip it off the bin. That is beautiful. Yeah, it says slide spiral wrap into the holder, which we already did, into the heat bed cable cover and secure in place using a zip tie. So we have done that. Check if everything is correct. Okay, so take a look on the printer from the top side and make sure that the lines on the heat bed are perfectly parallel with the x-axis rods as shown in the picture. If they are not in parallel position, use 17mm wrench to adjust the M10 nuts to get it correct. Use nuts only on the side close to the Z-axis motor. So they're telling you don't use the ones the double nut that hold the plate in place. All right, so I don't know. We'll probably go to the sky cam here in a second, and yeah, that PEI sheet like takes the oils from your skin so so much. All right, I'm going to manually run my Z down, not too far, just a little bit, and then they're telling you to use the lines on the bed to make sure that it's square. Here, I'll show you in the picture. They're telling you to line it up to those. So I'm going to grab my square. So I have my square here, and I'm going to set it flat here on my table, and then we're going to come up. We will run it into the X-axis rods, and then I'm moving the heat bed. And I know you can't really see, but can't even really see with that camera. These cables are such a hindrance. All right, so this line in the bed, I'm setting it right against the ruler. This is pushed. This is pushed all the way to the rods. And I have set that to where it's just touching the white line. Now we'll go to this side. This one, the belt's a little bit in the way, but let me shine a little bit more light in there so I can see for sure. Ooh, I moved the bed, sorry. Okay, coming back to this side because I moved the bed. Oh, I won't argue with that at all. I'm going to slide the bed and check one of these forward lines, but holy cow, I mean, I definitely can't see any discrepancy with my naked eye. I mean, not that I have a robotic eye to use instead, but yeah, if it's off, it's not even a 1/10 of a millimeter. I mean, it is there. It's there. I'm pleased with it. I'm not going to change it. So I can't really advise you guys on how you would need to, if yours isn't right. They do have a picture in here showing you that if yours isn't right, do not move the well, I don't know how would that move? Oh, I guess you would. You'd have to move the jam nuts on the other side too. They're actually telling you to align this whole entire plate to be more square with the bed. So that's up to you if yours is off. If you've been following along and have done exactly what I have done, you should be good. So step 20 is last finishing touch and done. Assemble the spool holders to the top of the frame as shown in this picture. I'm not going to do that right now. I may or may not even use that at all. And we are now one step away from finishing, which is all of the electronics. So that's the end of step 7, and that down out of my face. Thanks for following along. We hope that you're enjoying this series. We hope that your printer is turning out as awesome as ours. I hope that you didn't break your piece like I did. But if you did, it's not the end of the world because we own 3D printers. If you enjoy what we're doing, go ahead and subscribe. And if you want notifications of our new videos, you have to subscribe, and then you have to click the little bell next to the subscription to get notifications. We'd love to have some comments on how we're doing. Leave us a thumbs up. You can leave us a thumbs down, but leave us thumbs down, do us a favor, and tell us, you know, what it was that you didn't like. We can't get better if you don't tell us. And I think that's it for this series, or for this step. See you in the next step. As always, print on.